Today I'm going to take a look at this Cerner. I'm just going to call it Cerner. I don't know what it's supposed to be, how it's supposed to be pronounced, but this Cerner connectivity engine. From what I can tell from the literature, this is a device used to connect a whole bunch of stuff in a hospital, particularly at the reception. This is actually how it boots with this bizarre pattern. Anyway, fingerprint scanners, printers, that sort of thing. And the idea is that this is a device that will connect everything together and allow it to archive or something. I don't know. They call it iBus, the Care Aware iBus, which sounds like something from a children's TV show. Anyway, that is supposedly how this system talks to all the other peripherals, and you can see when it boots up, it actually loads Windows CE and then runs a couple batch files, and you can actually start doing stuff with this thing. It's got a touch screen, but it will run a little batch file, and then it will eventually load its touch interface software, which from what I can tell doesn't actually let you do anything with. Once it kicks on, it basically just sits there showing you the IP address. Now, on the side of this, it says demo unit. So it's possible this is somehow missing some software or something to go with it, which would allow it to do something. But the most I've actually been able to get it to do is to just print out some error messages. Now, it does retrieve an IP address from my DHCP server, and it shows up as a web server and a secure web server. The secure web server doesn't seem to do anything, but the plain web server just goes, "Oh, you've installed Windows CE, here's your generic nothing website." But it also registers as a, it's also providing an FTP server and a telnet server. So, here's the software, it just came on, and maybe at the bottom you might be able to see that it actually says the IP address, and that's pretty much all you can do from this. It doesn't really do anything. Anyway, the FTP server basically is just a file directory listing, and I was able to copy most of the files off it. It has a bit of flash memory, which we'll get into, but the telnet server does the exact same thing. You log in and it's just a directory listing, and you can just basically use DOS commands. So there's really not much to it. If I take a USB device such as, this is just a simple USB serial converter. There's a whole bunch of USB ports at the back, which we'll get into, but plug it in and you get an unidentified device warning from Windows. So I tried every single device I have here, basically just trying to get anything to just register and see if it actually pops up like a UI for, say a printer or something like that. And I couldn't get it to detect anything. Now, it's possible my stuff's just too modern and there aren't many drivers on this, or it's missing software. But if you take a USB keyboard, this does actually register, and it will let you type. At least it used to. I don't know. Maybe it won't once it's, maybe it has to be plugged in when it starts up. Not important. Anyway, the USB keyboard worked, and you can just get out of this and it will kind of just keep coming up. You can't really do much. Error installing driver, and then it just kind of pops up again. So whatever it needs to do, it's obviously not doing it. So let's just take it apart. And as you can hear, it had quite a loud fan. So getting into this thing, we've got the TFT screen, which has a touch sensor. It's very crappy. It's probably resistive touch, so you have to really press down. Little power LED, and like I said, it says demo unit. And on the back we have an IEC power connector and a switch. This doesn't look hospital grade. I think this is just like a nice power. It's nice quality, but it doesn't look like this is all designed to be near a patient. And from how I've described it and how I've seen it written, it looks like this is really meant for like reception. Because I was, when I purchased it and it said it was a medical device, I was expecting a lot of like really over the top safety stuff, but first of all, you're using USB, so I don't think it's all that intrinsically safe. So this whole system seems to be geared around a reception area. So as you can see, we have 8 USB ports, a small fan that's like 20 millimeter or 25 millimeter, an Ethernet port which is 100 base T, and Wi-Fi, which I believe is 802.11b and G. And on the bottom, which I've already unscrewed, there is a small connector. I don't know what this goes to, possibly some kind of expansion module. It's got 3 pins, so I don't know what it would be doing, but you know, Cerner device works. That seems to be part of the whole Caraware architecture nonsense. But it comes with some kind of serial number on it, and you can see it's got MAC addresses. Now this is the MDC-1. I have found a picture of this thing in operation. It was on a guy's Flickr account, and it shows some kind of little like small device. And at first I was thinking it was like an ECG unit or something, like maybe it was actually reading stuff directly from a patient, but it might just be a fingerprint scanner or something, I don't know. Its screen was different to mine, so I don't know what the deal is. Maybe there's different software for this demo unit. It's just not set up properly. This says Windows CE Core 5.0. That would be your little license sticker. And I've already taken out the screws. This screw is kind of a trick because it's actually connected to a ground lead. So you try to unscrew it and it just doesn't go anywhere because it's spinning a nut on the inside. So this case kind of comes apart. Oh, and it's actually made in Connecticut, USA. And there's also not too many approvals on this. So I'm thinking it's like I said, I'm thinking it's not really meant to go anywhere near people. It's really just for the reception area and that kind of stuff. So you can kind of pop out the whole chassis. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to disconnect the TFT here. Let me get some kind of implement. These will do. There we go. And here's the inside. We've got a nice looking switch mode power supply. I might actually keep this because this is actually a 12 volt at 5 amp power supply, and it's made by EOS, and it looks very nice. There's a big filter unit here, and there's a fuse module, and you know, it's very nice. It's a nice compact little power supply. And we got the fan, and this goes off to the LED. So let's just unhook that, unhook the fan, unhook the power supply, which comes along on just this little custom cable. It's just being fed 12 volts. And then there's also this small header connector which runs down to that mystery connector at the bottom. And on the top, oh yeah, and there's also the ground strap. On the top you can see there's just the LCD and the fan, which is made by someone. I don't know. We'll get into that in a bit. But I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect all this stuff and get the board out so we can just take a closer look at the board, because that's really the only thing in here. This is the LCD module. It's kind of crusty, but you can see it's just a standard LCD with a small connector going, or ribbon going to the touch sensor. And there's also a couple more wires going to the backlight. But yeah, pretty standard. It's just an LCD, and it's not very good. It's very low resolution. We've also got the fan, and the fan is a simple Flight LT, and it is 12 volt, and it is very, very loud. So may hang on to this just because smaller fans are kind of hard to come by. And we've also got the main board, and the main board is made by Digi International. And I'm going to take this out. It's a bought-in card at the top, which we'll take a look at. And we've also got the IV Biomedical Systems IV Bridge interface. So this looks like the only thing that they've actually made. This is something they've bought in, and we'll look at the data sheets and stuff for that. But this is the thing that they've actually made, and it's what contains all the USB ports. And on the back we've got simply a SMSC controller, which is probably a USB hub or maybe a microcontroller running everything. Some nice linear DC to DC converters with rather large capacitors and some nice fuses. And we've got a small flash module here, which is what all the program storage is coming in. Oh, I didn't realize there was a little hex nut on that. I just popped that off. But yeah, this is just a USB based module. It's I think it's like 256 megabytes, but I'll have to look into it. I don't know how big the thing is exactly. But yeah, this is just a smaller pin pitch header, but it's actually just a USB interface. So this you could actually just hook up to your computer just if you broke out a USB cable. Anyway, we've got a few crystals on here. There's one down here and one up here. And we've got some odds and ends, probably drivers for the LCD, which, you know what, this might actually be an LCD driver of some type. But going over here, we've got, this actually might be the USB hub, but it's got this like crazy bodge on it where it's got like a small piece of PCB with a 4-pin SOT23 device on it, and a little reset switch, and some just small components which are probably stuff like protection for the USB ports. These are a couple trim pots. There's some LEDs which aren't actually used because they're using that extension wire to take it out to the case. Power on LED, fan, and this appears to just be some kind of programming header or possibly another USB port. I'm not 100% sure on it. This is what the mystery connector at the bottom of the case plugs into. And you can see this little eyelet here has been put on for some extra grounding. And we've got some nice big caps along the USB ports. And this is just, it looks like it's just like a regular SODIMM style connector. There's some dates on this, which puts it around 2007. I popped on the macro lens so we can get a better look at this bodge job they've done on this chip. Now I've determined that the SMSC chip on the other side is actually a USB 2 4-port hub. So it makes sense that this chip on this side is actually one as well to provide the 8 ports. So this just says MEG, and I don't know what it does, and I don't know what it is. And they seem to be using only 3 terminals on it. And it's wired into a capacitor, so it's probably getting power from that on both sides of the rail, and the other side is going to one side of the switch. So my guess is this is something to do with a reset system. My guess is that they were having problems with it resetting, and this is probably either stabilizing or triggering like a watchdog reboot or something. I'm not positive on it, but you know, that's just my guess looking at it real quick. There's also some test points down here, TP9, and I assume the other's 10 or 8. And yeah, there's some missing components on here, and a couple tantalums, and what looks like more test points. What looks like a little regulator. Yeah, probably a really tiny switching regulator. There's an inductor there, but that could just be like a ferrite bead or something. I don't know. And we've just got some IDT parts, probably bus drivers or something. Can't be bothered to look those up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not too much on this board. It's really just like a fancy USB 2 hub. I noticed on the back there's also another bodge job with a little wire going between these 2 fuses. I like this capacitor design with the little pin to show you which way positive is. But yeah, these are little, well, not too little, but they're linear micro module DC to DC converters. This is the connector for the USB flash drive, and it's really just some bare pins, surface mount pins. doesn't seem too stable, although it's probably not something that ever gets changed. They probably just install this module at the factory and it never really goes anywhere. And like I said, it had a nylon washer and screw on it, so it can't really move anywhere. And Max 232, or no, 3232. The last piece is this Digi International Connect Core Y9C. I believe that's the right model. I had to do some Googling around. It seems to be just a system on module. It's got an ARM-based CPU. In this case, I believe it's running at 155 megahertz and some memory. It's, from what I can tell, it's 256 megabytes. This particular one has a Xilinx Spartan. I'm not really sure what that's here for. It might just be available for people to use as part of the whole package. You know, you get this module and it comes with some with a small CPLD or FPGA, but I'm not positive on where that's coming from. But they've got you know, essentially an entire computer on this thing. It's missing some power supply stuff, probably for the second Ethernet port, which is not populated. This has 100 base T and 802.11b and G Wi-Fi. The wireless module, it says 64 megabytes on this, so maybe this only has 64 megabytes of memory, but it looks like it's a little self-contained module with all the RF stuff in it. And that, I think, is just stuff to do with the magnetics for the Ethernet port. Got a couple small pin header here, not really sure what that's for. And another little one here. Again, these are probably all expansion things that you can use, like probably GPIO and stuff like that. Something that is probably a programming header for the onboard flash. This is probably JTAG programming for the Spartan. Probably Ethernet, possibly also Wi-Fi. And yeah, it's just got this ARM chip on it, and it's running Windows C. Now, I found some kind of information on this board, and there's a couple data sheets for it. And like I said, it's a 155 megahertz chip. It's the 32-bit ARM series. It's got flash. It's got some RAM. It's got the Ethernet, and it says the form factor is a standard 144 pin SODIMM. So, you know, pretty standard connector that you can get. And it's got I2C, GPIO, SPI, UARTs. So it does have a whole bunch of connectivity. Just looking through this data sheet now. It pulls 900 milliamps at 3.3 volts. So fairly low power. And yeah, it's just basically a little computer. Now, on the drive itself, I was able to find the operating system and stuff, and none of the apps really work. I can't really do anything with them on a modern system, and once that program boots at startup, it locks out everything, so you only get a little bit of time to play with Windows C. I wasn't able to stop it from loading stuff, and I didn't really want to kill it like by disabling all the boot process and stuff, but yeah, it basically just loads that software, and on the drive it's just a few apps. It looks like it's all been developed with Java using the IBM WebSphere type stuff. Yeah, 1907, so 2007 fits with everything else on this thing. What is that? Oh, it's a DAC? Yeah, it's a analog device DAC. I wonder what they're using that for. Probably more of the, well, it's by the Wi-Fi. I don't know. Maybe that's unrelated. It just happens to be there. Maybe it's for some of the analog outputs and stuff. But yeah, it's basically just a little board with a computer on it. I was kind of disappointed by this thing because I was hoping it was some kind of weird-ass medical device. Instead, it's sold to the medical industry, but it's not actually like rated for medical use. It doesn't have anything to do with patients. So, a little disappointing, but I've had this thing for a really long time and I wanted to get it torn down. And I must have taken this thing out. I throw all my stuff for teardown in the closet. I must have taken this thing out of the closet like 10 times, and every time I do it, something comes up and I end up not shooting the video. So it just never got made until now. I've had this for probably a year or so. But yeah, nothing really useful. And I mean, what are you going to do with this? I mean, it's low power, but you know, just go get a Raspberry Pi. It will work just as well, if not better. Power supply, probably useful. I might just pull this out and keep it. It looks like it's in really good shape, and it's nicely made, lots of filtering and stuff. It's got two, I don't know if this is another inductor. It may have active power factor correction in it too. Very nice. So that I'll probably hang on to. Oh, and the case itself is this metallized plastic, and it's very tough for the most part. The back here, where it's got a lot of cutouts, is a little weak. It also doesn't have the metallized part at the back. But yeah, it's a very sturdy case, and I don't know if it made any different for the non-demo units, but you know, I paid next to nothing for this thing, so I figured it was worth just getting to check it out.